Hello everyone, welcome back. Today we are going to learn how to make a birthday shaker card inside of Silhouette Studio. As you can see on my screen, I already have a scalloped rectangle. And if you need to learn how to make this, I will link the video below that will teach you all about making scalloped shapes. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to use my rectangle tool here. And I'm just going to draw the regular card front. I'm going to hit V on my keyboard and I'm going to come up here and I'm just going to grab the correct size. I'm going to keep my ratio aspect unlocked while I put in the correct size. I want 4¼ inches wide and 5.5 inches tall. There we go. So this is going to be just the front of the card. I like to work with this first and then we'll go ahead and make the full card base. So starting with this, and then I'm just going to give it a color so that we can better see what we're doing here. So I'm just going to fill this in with a color. And then I've got my scallop design. And you can see it's going behind there. And what I'm going to do is come up top. And I'm going to hit bring to front. And that'll bring that scallop design in the front. And then I'm just going to take these two parts and I'm going to center them together. And then for my scallop design, it is 3.75 inches wide. And it is again the 5.5 inches tall. So you'll see just the scalloped on the sides. And now what I'm going to do is grab another rectangle. And I'm just going to draw this out here. Hit V on my keyboard to get my little arrow key again. And I'll bring it down here. And I'm going to want this one about 3 inches wide. And again, that 5.5 inches tall. And then we're going to grab everything. And again, I'm going to hit center. And that will center everything together. And I'm going to grab this small one. Let's give it its own color so we can keep making sure everything, we can see all the layers. Okay, so this is what it's going to look like so far. And then I'm going to come over here to this Flexi Shapes and I'm going to grab the balloon. And then I'm just going to click and drag. And you can see it's making that balloon shape. You can make it whatever size you want. Let's start with that V on the keyboard again to get that selection tool. And let's see, there we go. Now let's grab it up here and rotate it so it's nice and straight. And then I'm going to click and drag that over here. Let's again give that a fill color so we can see as we're working. And that looks too big, so I'm just going to shrink it down here. If you hold down Shift and Alt while you shrink, it will shrink from both sides. Whereas even with just the Shift, it'll just do one side. Otherwise, even with nothing, it's just the one side. So Shift and Alt will shrink from both directions. And I'm just want that to, whoop. And of course, you need to, I'm sorry, it's just Alt or Option on a Mac. You need to let go of your mouse before you let go of the Option key. And I think that looks pretty good there. Not quite straight. I'll give it a little more rotation. If you want to line things up straight, you can definitely turn your grid marks on, but I think that looks pretty good there. And then let's type out happy birthday. Okay, and I'm going to do this as a sketch. So I want to pick a pretty thin font that will sketch nicely. that looks pretty good. And that's going to be way too big. So let's give that a color as well. Okay, and now I'm going to hold down Alt or Option as I go to shrink that down to size so that it'll fit on this front layer. Let's see. Whoop. Control and Z to undo. That's still pretty hard to read. I'm going to grab a different color just to make it easier to see. That's better. Okay, and then we're going to come over here and grab our pencil tool. And we're going to do a smooth freehand. So on my laptop, with my left hand, I'm going to hold down the click. And then with my right hand, I'm going to draw on my touchpad. And I'm just going to draw like a little S curve. And that's going to be our string. So click, draw, and then unclick. And it's not quite smooth. So I'm going to hit simplify over here on the point editing. And that smoothed it out to what I want. And then up here, I'm going to change the point on this to about 5 points. Let's see what that looks like. And that just gives it some depth so that you can see it. And then when you go to put it here, it's going to be too tall. So I'm just going to grab the corner here and shrink that to size. Control Z to undo. And I want it to sit about right there. That looks good. So let's give that a fill color as well. It doesn't really work because it's just a line color. Oh well. All right, so now here comes the fun. What we need to do is make a hole in this top layer here, and that's where our shaker parts are going to be. And then there's a couple other steps. So the first thing we're going to do, we're going to click on our balloon and click our first layer. So we've clicked on both of those, and we're going to go over to our modify panel, and we're going to hit subtract. And what that did was it took the balloon out of our front piece here. Okay, now we have a few more pieces to make. We're going to start by making the inside pieces that you would either cut multiples or cut it out of foam. And then we're going to make the clear acetate window part. So what we're going to do is grab this red piece. We're going to hold down the Alt or Option button, and then you get this little plus arrow. We're going to click and drag, and that's going to make a copy. All right, at this point, let's go ahead and show our grid so we can see what we're doing. And then let's click on this piece and let's zoom in on it so we can really see what we're doing. So I'm going to go ahead and line this up on my grid. All right, and now what I'm going to do, I want to make this part a little bit smaller so that way it doesn't show the edges of it when I put it underneath my top layer. So in order to do that, what you could do is you could have pulled over a rectangle, changed the size of the rectangle, and then pulled it back over and then cut out the balloon shape. But I wanted to make sure everything was still in the correct place. So this is how I go about that. We're going to do some point editing. So I'm going to double click. Well, here, let me show you why we have to do it point editing. Because if I just click and I grab this side and I drag it up, see how the shape of the balloon changes? We don't want to do that. So I'm going to hit Control and Z to undo that. So we're going to double click. And then you see you get your little points around here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to click this point. And I'm just going to drag it up. And I'm going to put it right there. And then I'm going to do the same thing with this one. Click that point drag it up. And this is why you keep things nice and aligned on your, let's find that spot, right on your grid line so that you can see. Now let's zoom back in so that we can make sure that those are perfectly, and they are not. Let's grab this one. You want them perfectly on those lines. So that way they are the same. Okay, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my arrow keys and I'm going to tap it in a couple of taps. 3, 4, 5. I'm just going to do 5. And I'm going to do that on all sides, all the way around. 3, 4, 5. And that is just to make sure that it does not seam all the way through. Actually, let's do 10. That looks, that's barely anything. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That looks better. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That way you'll have a little border around every piece. So again, this one I'm going to bring down. Oop. I'm going to hit Control Z to undo that move. I'm going to click that little spot again. And then you can just bring that down. I think if I bring it down, I think that'll be okay. So again, we're going to grab this corner and we're going to bring it down right there. So those are lined up. And then I'm going to grab that one again and I'm going to come in 10 points. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Now you could just use the lines on the grid, but as long as I hit the same amount, we know that the line, it'll be a straight line. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay. Now let's zoom back out and click off. Click that again. Let's change the color of it just so we can see the difference. And then I'm going to bring it over here. And this is just kind of eyeballing, but that looks about right there. But you see how there's a little gap around both sides and then a big gap around the top and the bottom. So this is what we're going to use. I didn't mean to shorten it that much. That's okay. We are going to use that one as our clear acetate piece. So what we can do is double click, and then all of these little points in here, we can delete path. Actually, let's just hit delete, and it's going to go through and delete that inside path. Okay, so now this piece here is going to be what is our clear acetate. So it won't show. And you can actually even make it a little bit smaller if you wanted. But that way it will fit completely over that. You have a little gap around the sides, but it still has enough to add some adhesive to get it to adhere down. Okay, so let's move that over here. Let's grab this one again. So holding down the Alt or Option key, click and drag, make another copy. Let's zoom in. So this one is what we're going to use to add our dimensions. So it's either going to be out of foam or multiple copies. So again, double click, get our little points. I'm going to go in with the arrow keys 10, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and up 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And I'm going to repeat that on every corner. So again, it'll have that nice little gap on there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And by using the same number on each corner, you know it's going to stay straight. We'll come up to the top. So when you put it on there, it'll have that little gap. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So then when you go to put it together, these edges won't fall out the edge in case you don't have it perfectly lined up, especially if you're making multiple copies of this out of paper and then try to line them all up. We all know that things don't always work out perfectly. So let's grab our last one here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay. All right, let's zoom back out. So now this is our card. This is going to be the part that we do as our foam. This is the acetate piece that's going to go behind here, which will be clear so that you can see through it. And then this part here will adhere to our scalloped edge. So there's all of the pieces there. And then with the happy birthday and the little line here, you can do those as sketch pens. You can print and cut them, whatever you want to do. And then with this part, let's go ahead and grab all of this and let's scoot it down so we have room to work. And then what I'm going to do is click on my largest one, and I'm going to come up here and I want it to be 11 inches tall. All right. And then I'm actually going to move it out of the way. Let's grab all of these pieces, Control G to group them together. And now we can put this behind there. And then what we're going to do, before we do that, it's easier just to do it over here. Let's grab our line tool again. And holding down the Shift key, I'm going to draw a straight line across. And I'm going to make that line, I like to do blue or white. Those are typically your score line colors. So I'm going to do this one in blue. I'm going to hit V on my keyboard to get my selection tool. And then I'm going to rubber band select these two pieces, and I'm going to come up here and I'm going to center them. All right, now we know where those go. So now you can click on this guy and you can grab a corner, holding down Shift again. You can drag that in so it's perfectly the right size. We hold down Shift so that it won't move up and down and it'll stay a straight line. Okay. Now I'm going to go ahead and group these two together. So rubber band select, Control and G to make them a group. We already grouped all of this together. Let's make sure. Yep. And then we can grab these pieces. Again, that's not a big deal. We can click on that and then we can say bring to front, and that'll bring that whole group to front. Now we can grab all of these, and what we're going to do is align them on the bottom. And then let's zoom into this. If all of your measurements are right, it looks like we're not quite exactly correct. So let's scroll down to the bottom and see how the bottom looks. Yeah, did not quite pull this all the way to the bottom. So if you pull that all the way to the bottom there, and then when you come up to the top, now you can see that the top is perfectly aligned right there. So now you are perfectly centered onto your bottom half of your card. The score line is where it's going to be scored to fold in half. So let's zoom back out. So this is the front of your card, and then this is your acetate piece, and then this is your foam piece. And that is how you're going to make a balloon happy birthday shaker card. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, click like and subscribe so you don't miss out on any future Silhouette Studio tutorials. Until next time, with love, Crafty Christy.